Live from a basement in Dubuque, Iowa.
I'll bet you $20 I can get you gambling before the end of the day.
30 minutes from the Field of Dreams and 4 hours from the closest professional sports team.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
On the banks of the Mississippi River.
I'm funny how? I mean funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you?
It's the Degenerate Sports Betting Show with Matthew Freedman.
That's what I do. I drink and I know things.
And now your host, Matthew Freedman.
Hello, everyone. I'm Matt Freedman, Matt F. the Oracle. Welcome to the Degenerate Sports Betting Show, brought to you by Bets TV and sponsored by the FTN Network, where you can get all the season-long and daily fantasy and sports betting content your degenerate heart desires, including my fantasy football write-ups and all of my NFL sides, totals, and player props. Use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off of your FTN subscription. That is Freedman for 20% off at FTN. Thanks for checking out the show. Subscribe to the Bets TV channel on YouTube and rate, review, and subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast app. All right, it is Monday afternoon, and today we are talking about Monday Night Football because we haven't had enough football over the past 10 days. So we're going to talk about yet another football game. Producer Thomas Viola, psychic on the controls, connoisseur, pasta, titan of tomato sauce, Billy Joel Chunky, long-suffering Jets fan, and snowed-in victim of, where are you again right now?
I'm up in Lake Tahoe. I would hardly call myself a victim, but I am definitely snowed in.
Yes. Well, I mean, being stuck with family in a snowed in environment in the holiday season, it's victim-like if you're not totally a victim. You know,
there are worse fates. It has been absolutely insane. We literally shoveled the deck last night around 6 p.m., and I woke up this morning, there's 3 feet of snow on it now. After this show, I have to go help my dad shovel it again. But it's nice. We had a good post-Christmas Italian snow shoveling day yesterday. My dad and I lit up some cigars, went outside, shoveled everything, and then took a walk around the block. It was a good time.
Is there something specifically Italian about the act of shoveling snow and smoking cigars?
It's the combination of all of that, the conversation, and the fact that now we both have our Ginzer chains. So
okay.
It is absolutely, it was very peak Italian.
Okay. Were you guys like quoting Godfather to each other while you're shoveling snow?
Of course.
Yeah. I'm assuming. By the way, your dad must be in heaven getting to shovel all of that snow with family around.
I have a photo that I took this morning. We were all sitting out at the window watching the snowplow come up, and you could just see the look of pure dad envy on his face that he didn't have that snowblower.
Yeah. It's something to aspire to, right?
Mm-hmm.
You always want to be reaching, even when you're older, right? Something to aspire to.
It's his 60th birthday this summer. Could be coming down the pipe. We'll see.
That would be a mammoth gift. All right,
mm-hmm.
I'm just going to say, post-Christmas malaise, we are on the cusp of week 17, which, you know, for people in their fantasy playoffs is the championship. No Thursday night football. I feel like in a normal season, right? No, I feel like in a normal season, this would be like on the precipice of the final week of the season. Instead, we've got this 18th week. Anyway, it's just, I'm ready for the season to be done. Tom, let's talk about Monday Night Football. And it's a game that isn't that good.
And it gets worse when you factor in that you're really playing the Saints practice squad here, because tonight's game is between the Dolphins and the Saints. Oh, Lordy. It opened Saints -3.5, which is to be expected given what we knew back when the line started. The line has moved all the way to Dolphins -3 due to the Saints starting rookie quarterback Ian Book, as Taysom Hill and Trevor Siemian are both sidelined with COVID. Playing who has COVID here, the list is so long for the Saints. Some of the highlights: Taysom Hill, Trevor Siemian, Malcolm Jenkins, Demario Davis, Ryan Ramczyk, Caden Ellis, James Carpenter, Jordan Mills, Jeff Heath, Christian Ringo, Carl Granderson, Jalen Holmes, Adam Troutman, and Juwan Johnson, all on the COVID list here for the Saints. This is insane. They are missing 3 offensive linemen here, their entire starting linebacker core, their quarterback unit also decimated. This is just, it's insane this game's even being played.
I had missed that both Troutman and Johnson, their 2 tight ends, are, I mean, they have Vinette, but I mean, and Troutman's out anyway. But it's just like this is incredibly suboptimal. But here's the thing: I asked on Twitter the question yesterday, or I wasn't even asking the question. I said, "Am I the only?" I guess I was technically asking a question. Why don't I just get to the statement? Why don't I do that? I asked on Twitter yesterday, "Am I the only person in the world who looks at Josh Johnson and Tyler Huntley and thinks that like there's not much difference between these two guys?" And honestly, like based on how Josh Johnson played yesterday, there isn't much difference between those two guys. And I feel actually kind of similarly with Taysom Hill and Ian Book. And I know that might sound really weird, but like, do we think of Taysom Hill as like a legitimate, like actually a legitimate NFL quarterback? Like, no, he's a scrappy guy who's been a veteran in the league, but like, he's not really an NFL quarterback. Like,
but he's incredibly fast. He's an athlete, and it's not a conventional offense. You're more Sean Payton would probably have more success with Taysom Hill running the Citadel triple option, but he's still a weapon. And I don't know, is Ian Book supposed to be that fast? Is he a mobile running guy? He's
not that fast, but I don't think Taysom Hill actually is all that fast either. I might be wrong on that, but I think like Taysom Hill is just a good running quarterback. But Ian Book was actually a pretty good running quarterback too. You know, in his two final seasons at Notre Dame, like he actually was a decent running quarterback. And it wasn't just scrambles. Like over half of his runs were on designed runs. I think there's actually a chance that they run something close to the Taysom Hill offense with Ian Book. And like, if they do that, I think in terms of like a point spread, the difference between Taysom Hill and Ian Book, like, you know, it gets truncated, because I think if they try to run Ian Book as if he's like Drew Brees, then I think the difference between Hill and Book is massive. But if they use Book as just a diminished version of Hill, I don't know.
Now, did you see the rumor about Drew Brees? That was fantastic. Allegedly, the Saints reach out to him to come back and play in this game, and he just sent them a photo of him golfing in Hawaii. They also reach out to Phillip Rivers. I 100%. You reach out to two very good quarterbacks, if not great quarterbacks, that retired recently. But you also reach out to two of the biggest family men from the NFL to ask if they want to miss Christmas to come and play one meaningless game for you. Like that. What did you think was going to happen there? Phillip Rivers can field his own offense at this point. You think his wife is going to let him miss another Christmas? Absolutely not.
The guy to reach out to would have been Romo.
Yes. Oh my God.
He would have done it.
Imagine. He would have.
Yeah.
He would have still called the other game on Sunday and then flown out for it.
Yeah. For one final game, you know, being able to reunite with Sean Payton, he absolutely would have done it.
Yeah.
He would have been bad, but he would have done it.
It would have been atrocious. By the way, the statement that you put out on Twitter asking that Terrell Huntley, Ian Book question, or Josh Johnson question, most of your replies with the conversation that got developed was all of the people from the Circa War Room, and it was very funny for me seeing like my old bosses and my new boss talking.
By the way, love the guys at the Circa. They seem incredibly sharp. You know, I haven't had much interaction with them, but I've always enjoyed the interaction I have with them. And Circa, obviously, I would say like a leading sports book, and like the way that they book business, I think is, you know, I mean, obviously businesses differ, you know, people, they go about their business however it is that they think is most profitable, but I like the way that the Circa books business. So very big fans, big fans of them.
Whole lot of bias here from me, but in the opposite direction you might expect, since they're a former employer for me. Fantastic dudes. Jeff Benson is one of the nicest guys that you will ever meet. Matt Metcalf, just sitting down and talking with him, he is so sharp, and just his whole story of how he got where he is awesome. Jeff Davis is one of the best hockey minds that I've ever seen, and Chris Bennett, who makes the whole thing run back there. another just incredibly sharp guy, and he is the one who is in charge of their entire NFL market, and it's why it's so hard to beat them.
Yeah, and massive props literally to Jeff Benson last year, who put out a slew of draft props. And I do believe that Circa was the first book really to take a stand and to put out there props on a ton of players that other books really just didn't want to touch and didn't want exposure on. And I mean, I'll be honest, I don't know how that did for Circa. I mean, it's hard to do NFL draft props profitably, I think, if you're a sports book, because there are other people who just care about it more. But props to them for doing it. And I think it's at a minimum, it's a great way of building, I don't know, like not brand loyalty, but like it's a great way of like having some brand awareness out there.
Yeah, and the whole thing with the Circa brand is that they're not going to turn you away. They will take your action. And a lot of books these days don't like that. A lot of books don't want winners now. And that's something that really sets Circa apart. And it's a reason that high limit bettors love them so much.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about this game. Oh, by the way, let's dive down the wormhole just a little bit more of that conversation. So I thought what was pretty intriguing in the thread yesterday. So you had the Circa guys on the one hand thinking Huntley is an NFL caliber quarterback and Josh Johnson is not. And then you had Matthew Davidow, who is one of the authors of what I think is one of the best sports betting books out there, whose name I can't remember right now. It's something, I think it's like The Logic of Sports Betting, something like that. He was on the other side of it, where he thinks the difference between those two guys is pretty small, but he's of the opinion like Josh Johnson is not a caliber, like an NFL caliber quarterback, and neither is Huntley. And I'm of like this sort of middle ground of like, I think the difference between these two guys is pretty close, because I think that they're both like, if not NFL caliber, like not starters, but like decent, competent backups. Like that is what they are.
But yeah, which is what they are. Like none of them will be playing in these games if the Ravens quarterback room wasn't in shambles because of COVID.
Yeah, but like I think they are NFL quarterbacks. Like I think Josh Johnson deserves to be an NFL backup, like not a starter, but I think he deserves to be an NFL backup. The same with Huntley. I think he is an NFL caliber quarterback, not a starter, but definitely a backup. The
man dropped dimes versus the Colts for the Jets.
Yeah, he did coming off the bench, cold off the bench, and then looked pretty decent yesterday, despite being on the team only a couple of weeks. So anyway, that was he was signed to the practice squad a couple of weeks ago, but not signed to the active roster until a couple of days before. So yeah, interesting conversation that people who are quite sharp and then me can view the situation of those quarterbacks differently. And I think part of the idea is that like we are always dealing with data that is like such a small sample and also like so context dependent that it is very hard to create anything that is like certain and actionable on that data.
Exactly. It especially in a game like football where there are so many variables and there's so many different ways that you can look at it and approach it. And it just goes to show how everyone has a different approach to it. Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about this game. And we've talked about it a little bit, but I mean, the spread, I'll be honest. So I haven't bet it yet. I probably won't. If I'm going to bet on it, it's the Saints, because I don't think there really is that much of a difference between Book and Taysom Hill, but I can't do it because they're so COVID ravaged. And like, I think that is a real thing. And Book is a 4th round, 4th-string rookie quarterback making his first start. Like I just say those words and I'm automatically thinking I want to bet against that guy, so I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it either way. I'm staying away.
Give me the Dolphins. I love to bet on a COVID underdog. I mean, we saw it. Didn't we see it this week? Didn't some team have a lot of COVID adversity and go out and win their game?
The Browns had some like left over from the week before.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. My brain's in the holiday fog, but as much as I'd love to bet on that coming back and winning that game, it's on the tip of my tongue. There was a team that did it this week. I can't remember who it was, and it's bothering me. But my point here is it's not even about the quarterbacks for me, although, yeah, you're starting a fourth-round rookie quarterback making his first start. It's about the entire rest of the field that is – the Saints don't have any of their starting linebacking core. They're missing multiple starting offensive linemen. They have no tight ends. What about this team makes you think they're going to do well? And on top of that, the Dolphins are riding a 6-game win streak. They're one game, like they're coming into this. If they win this game tonight, they are most likely going to be, they're at the very least going to be in the serious hunt for the playoffs, despite starting the season 1-7.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this team has completely turned it around. Tua is playing good ball. I'm not going to say great ball. He hasn't been one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen this year, but he has been very good. He's clearly acclimating to the NFL very well in his second season. I like what this Dolphins team has been doing as of late. I think this is a very easy spot for them.
Yes, but I'm not disagreeing with a lot of what you said, but I don't think that there's much difference between the team that we saw last week for the Saints and the team that we see now. Like, a lot of the guys who are out were still out. Like, missing linebackers, I don't think really matters all that much. Their defense is largely still intact. And the defense, like, that is the best unit in this game. Like, if you had to look at Dolphins offense, Dolphins defense, Saints offense, Saints defense, the Saints defense, I think, is clearly the best unit in this game. And that was the unit that just last week was able to hold the Buccaneers to 0 points. Like, I don't think that this is actually that great of like an offensive versus defensive matchup for the Dolphins. So it feels like this is a game that should be closer than maybe people would expect. The three,
I think it's going to be close.
The three, I liked it more when it was 3.5, and it's not 3.5 out there anywhere in the market. I don't know. You are correct about the Dolphins being a good team that, well, let me rephrase this, a team that is on a hot streak right now, but it feels like they've been playing above their head. And also, like, their competition hasn't been all that great. Like, Flores, I think he is a very good coach in a particular type of way. He feels like another version of Mike Tomlin in a way, where, like, if his team is an underdog, like, that team is always live, like, because they play like with that kind of like underdog tenacity all the time. Well, all the time within a particular context. But this is not the kind of team that I ever want to bet on when they are favored. You know, like, the Dolphins are favored. The Dolphins should almost never be favored in a game.
But they weren't favored when the initial lines for this game came out. Like, the way I look at it is, you took that Saints team coming off a shutout of the Buccaneers, and the book said they're 3-point favorites in the spot.
Mm-hmm. I don't think that the losses are worth the 6-point swing.
I don't know. I mean, you talk about the defense. They lost a defensive tackle. They lost 2 pretty good defensive ends. Malcolm Jenkins also not in. Like, there's a lot of losses on that defensive side.
Yeah. I
and
get
some
it.
of these guys, there is a caveat here. Some of these guys have been in protocol long enough that they could test out for tonight. Catherine Terrell, great Saints reporter and a great Twitter follow, she was reporting that there is some potential, but it's not looking great.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, like, Peyton as an underdog is 46-28-2 against the spread for his career. Like, I don't know. Without Drew Brees as an underdog, he's 9-3 against the spread. I'm not going to bet on it, because I don't want to be the guy who bet on a COVID infested team starting a 4th round rookie quarterback in his NFL debut. Like, I don't want to do that to myself, but I think that's fair. I do feel that the Saints is actually the right side. I don't have the conviction to bet it, But that's the side I think is the right side here.
Well, we will see. What about the total? Because it has plummeted from 40 to 37. It's so low you want to take it over. But then you look at the offense and you're like, I don't know about that.
It is so low. It has actually bumped up to 38 at a couple of books. It's 38 now at DraftKings, 38 at PointsBet, 37.5 at BetMGM and Caesars, 37 at FanDuel. Yeah, this total is so low. I still lean towards the under, right? Two defenses that are playing pretty well. The Saints, I mean, to your point, like they could really struggle on offense. I would expect them to struggle on offense. And the Dolphins aren't the type of team to push on offense, even if they get out to a lead. But at the same time, like it doesn't take much to go over 37.5, like 24-14. You know, I mean,
yeah,
like that does it. And 24-14 doesn't feel like something that should be impossible with these teams. So I don't know. I'm probably staying away from the total, but if I were going on this, I'd probably still go under.
My gut says it's going to finish 14-10, something like that.
Yeah,
but I don't want to bet that under when there are so many paths to an over, especially you factor in you've got a rookie quarterback who could potentially have some turnovers. Tua's been playing better, but he still can be good for one boneheaded mistake a game.
Yeah.
I think this game could go over because I could see that 24-14 score. If I'm betting it, I like the over.
Yeah. Ultimately for me, staying away.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at some of these prop markets, though, because there's some things that we could cash on here. You've got one that you particularly like, Caesars, has Ian Book 25.5 yards rushing, and you're liking this to go over.
Yeah, looking at Ian Book over 25.5 yards. I hate taking the over on a quarterback prop, but Book, we've mentioned it. He's a 4-string, 4th-round rookie making his first NFL start. I mean, I think he's going to be running for his life. Right. He seems likely to leave the pocket early, to pull the ball down, and to run probably more than he should. But the thing is, he's actually a good runner. In each of his 2 final seasons in college, he had over 600 yards rushing, and over half of his carries were non-scrambles. There's a chance that the Saints, I think, could have a very Taysom Hill-esque type of offense with designed quarterback runs for Book. It's easier for them to do that, I think, than to put him into an offense where they're asking him to drop back and throw the ball like in a more traditional Sean Payton type of offense. So I think we'll see more designed runs for Book. And if that's the case, this line is far too low. I don't want to say basically treat him as if he is Taysom Hill, but I think there will be some Taysom Hill type of elements within the offense that they run for him, which means this line, I think it's too low.
I think I think your logic is completely right here. And one of the advantages that we have on these Ian Book props is that nobody really knows what he looks like. So if you want to take a position like that, you're going to be able to find value in those spots. And I think you're right. This might be my favorite prop of the night too.
All right. And I should say, there are right now, as we're recording this, some lines that were on the board and have been taken off, and they will be put back on the board closer to game time. And one of those I just want to call out quickly. Myles Gaskin, 38.5 was the number that was floating out there. I'm not sure where that is going to be re-released, but I don't know. If that number is still in the 30s, I would probably be looking to take the under because Gaskin, I mean, he was relegated to the bench last week by Duke Johnson, who didn't do anything to disappoint fantasy investors or the Dolphins. So I think Duke Johnson gets a chance really to be the lead back once again in this game, which means Myles Gaskin, especially as a runner, I think will have a diminished role.
All right. What about Mark Ingram, though? Because you like him to have a greater role in this offense here.
Yeah, I'm looking at Mark Ingram at FanDuel minus 110 odds over 28.5 yards rushing. Even with Alvin Kamara back in action in the past 2 weeks, Ingram has still had 19 carries total. And I think we see similar workload. I think anywhere from 8 to 12 carries is where he's going to slot in. And with Ian Book as the starting quarterback, I mean, I think we see a run-heavy offense, whether that's with or without Book having a significant role in the running game. I think the running game is how the Saints will function. And I think that means we see Mark Ingram get significant usage, even as the number 2 back behind Kamara. So if he has 8 to 10, 12 carries, I think he should go over 28.5 yards rushing. I think this line should be, I'd say, closer to 33.5. But if we saw this line for Gaskin at 38.5, I would think that should actually be a more accurate line for Ingram than for Gaskin. So Ingram over 28.5, I think there's value there.
Any other props that you're really liking tonight?
No, I was combing through the prop market earlier, and it just looked kind of nasty. And part of it was because of Ian Book. Part of it is because this total is so low that it tends to bring all of the prop lines down, which means that like a lot of projection sets would end up guiding people towards overs, but like that just does not feel like the right side here. And this late in the season, a lot of the lines tend to be pretty spot on anyway. So honestly, there isn't a lot of value that I'm seeing in the prop market right now for this game.
That is very fair, especially with something as unpredictable as this. You don't know what you're getting in the Saints team, and it makes it so much harder to really pinpoint any potential spots.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. That is just about going to do it for us here. But before we go, today is a very special day, Matt. Today is the 6-year anniversary of the last time the New York Jets made me feel anything other than abject pain and misery.
What day was that? Did they beat the Patriots or something?
Yes, this was the day Ryan Fitzpatrick beat the Patriots in overtime, and it set up a Week 17 showdown with the Bills to go to the playoffs. And Keith went out and threw, 5 picks, and we lost that game to Rex Ryan and the Bills, and it was just absolutely brutal.
But at least before that, you beat the Patriots. Yeah.
We had one shining moment there where we had 1 week of optimism. I also just want to say, looking at the playoff field right now, the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Raiders are all potential candidates for the 7 seed. And any of those teams getting 7 seeds is the strongest case that can possibly be made for why we should not have a 7 seed.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, the 49ers, I think they could win a playoff game. Like, there's the possibility they could win a playoff game. Yeah. Right.
But they're going to have to, in a different year, probably. But this year, you look at who they're going to be playing, it's going to be one of the Packers, the Rams, or the Bucks. I don't think that the Rams, I give them the best chance because it's a division game. But any of those other teams, I'm not so sure. If the Eagles make the playoffs, just can the whole 7 seed right then and there. Just say, you know what, we made it. We messed up. We're good. They should not be a playoff team.
The 49ers would play the Cowboys. Let's assume that Green Bay wins the number 1 seed. They're on bye. The 49ers would go to AT&T Stadium to play the Cowboys. The 49ers could win that game.
Of course the 49ers can win that game. I'm officially at the point where I'm worried about the 49ers. And I say that as a fan of football in general, knowing that the worst possible thing would be the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl.
I would be scared as a Cowboys fan to see the 49ers come to Texas Stadium. It's no longer Texas Stadium. Yeah. The 49ers running the Cowboys aren't particularly great in run defense.
That's
and
true.
You know that Shanahan would just run every play.
Yeah. He'd play the Hurricane offense indoors.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That I would actually be a little bit worried about that, especially because that Cowboys offense can be so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm. They certainly didn't have that problem last night. And I do completely get that football team was coming off of a short week. They played on a Tuesday game. It's a rough turnaround. You had lost a couple players already. But, oh, wow, that Cowboys offense looked impressive.
Yeah, I mean, yes. 2 things. Dak historically smashes in division. and Washington is the worst team in the league in terms of allowing production to quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So it was not to say it was written in the stars, but yeah, it was a good spot for him. Hopefully the Cowboys offense can play like that every week. But anyway, as a Cowboys fan, yes, I'm worried actually about the 49ers. The idea of the 49ers being the 7th seed, that worries me a little bit. Speaking also of playoffs, Aaron Rodgers now very much favored to be the MVP once again.
As well, he should be. But the interesting thing to me was his takeaway from his post-game interview. Not the part where they held an entirely socially distanced interview and then hugged at the end, but the part where the part where he said he's very blessed to be in Green Bay. There's a lot of good things here. Do you think that winning is that deodorant where all of a sudden he's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't leave? Maybe he's realizing, wait a second here.
I think he has a play caller in LaFleur who does. It's saying like he does right by Rodgers sounds weird, but like he puts Rodgers in very enviable situations.
Yeah.
And then he has a good receiver. He doesn't have a good number 2 receiver really at this point, but like the other guys there are okay. He's got a good offensive line or good enough offensive line. I mean, I don't know. There's a lot of inertia to keep him there. And there are a lot of things that can go poorly that you don't think about when you leave. You know, like you have to learn a new system. You have to get along with a play caller. You have to form chemistry with the wide receivers. Like, I think Aaron Rodgers should stay.
I mean, I completely agree with you. They also need to keep Devontae Adams, and it would still be great if they grab another receiver so that he has a weapon that's better than Marquez Valdez-Scantling. That guy's a number 3 receiver. That's the reality. And they would be just ridiculous if they got that. But this Packers team looks as good as I've ever seen them. But then again, they looked really great last year. They didn't look as great the first NFC Championship game. But can they actually get over that hump this year? Especially with that home field advantage in Lambeau. That's very nice to have through the playoffs.
Yeah, that is real. Like thinking of the Cowboys going to Lambeau playing in the freezing cold.
That's not going to be fun.
No, that's not good. Yeah, the Packers, they need to trade Jordan Love for whatever they can get. Like they made a massive mistake in trading for him. Maybe they could get a second rounder for him. I'm kind of skeptical. I don't know, but
like, third round's your cap.
Yeah, I mean Sam Darnold was traded for a second rounder.
Yeah, but it's increasingly looking like the Panthers are just bad at business.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, like, I don't know, Carson Wentz was traded for first rounders. I mean, it's different in that he's actually played some games.
Played.
Yeah. Massive mistake. But yeah, they just need to own it and be like, we made a mistake. We're trading away the mistake.
Yeah.
And then apologize to Aaron Rodgers.
And then Aaron Rodgers' long game will be complete and he'll just retire.
Yeah. And then exactly. And then they give him a contract extension.
Yep.
Then he says no thank you and retires. That actually would be amazing if somehow they lost both of their guys.
I could see Rodgers being petty enough to do that. I could see that this entire season he goes out and wins a ring and it's still the long game was now I'm done.
Yeah. That would be the king of pettiness. And I would actually love to see it.
Me too.
Like I would respect him more if he were that level of petty.
It would be incredible.
Yeah. Okay. Let's get out of here.
All right, Matt, where can people find all the great work you're putting out each and every day?
All right. You can find all the content at FTN. On Friday, I publish the fantasy football breakdown. On Thursday, the best bets article. On Tuesday, the fantasy rankings, which I update on Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday. And all throughout the week in the FTN bet tracker, I'm putting in my NFL sides, totals, and player props. And on Twitter, on YouTube, on your favorite podcast app, and on FTN, you can get all of the episodes of the Freedman Fantasy Football Show and the Degenerate Sports Betting Show. And always use the highly original promo code Freedman for 20% off at FTN. All right, that is the show. You can find me and Tommy V on Twitter at Matt F. The Oracle and TV at Work. Thanks for joining us and see you next episode.